Hi, I'd like to talk just for a quick minute about how design is different from art. I think it's very easy to confuse the two, and in this class it's real important to separate them. I'm going to define art as a personal organization of visual information, but the endeavor of art is personal expression. I'm sure that you can find an art teacher or an artist who will say different, but for my definition, I'm going to go with that. And I studied painting when I was in college, so I mean, it's not like I take that definition lightly. But in the end, an artist is concerned with forging new, going in new directions, making stylistic improvements. And being true to your own voice. Hopefully people will like what you're doing, but that's secondary. The artist's way is to make images that help you expand as an individual. Now design it's much more pragmatic. So let me hold up my little slide here. So I have art as self-expression. Design is the visual organization of information, and then I put a little asterisk in order to communicate, and that's what I think is part of graphic design, so I put graphic over on the side. And design, again, is public. You can come up with a great design or great artistic concept, but if it doesn't communicate the message, and typically you're designing for somebody else, but you might be designing for something internally as well. But if you're not getting the message across, then your design is a failure. I think it's that easy. Design needs to be able to be understood, in my opinion. And then I also had another thing in here. Types of design. If you were to break the professional design field out into a couple different areas, you'd probably come up with these three. Industrial design, which is the making of 3D things. So somebody made your computer, somebody made your toaster, somebody makes the airplane that you fly in, or your car. Those things that are produced in a manufacturing line are industrial design. And we've all used things that work great and used other things where it's like, oh, did anybody try to use this? So that's what industrial design is about, three-dimensional things that are produced. And that's why I said in order to communicate an asterisk about graphic design, because when you think about industrial design, it's really not in order to communicate, it's in order for the item to work. So industrial design gets a little bit away from in order to communicate. It's really just trying to accomplish a task. The next type of design is environmental. Environmental is the making of living spaces. So architectural design, landscaping, interior design, all of those things are concerned about the space that we live in. And then finally there's graphic design. And I put here the making of messages, which I'm not really happy with that definition, but it's the one that I could think of here at 9:30 at night. When you're dealing with graphic design, you're really dealing with the organization of two-dimensional information. Nowadays, that has to do with interfaces that you're building for web pages. But 20 years ago, you were building interfaces as a graphic designer as well. If you were making the New York subway map, you were having to deal with an interface. If you were dealing with signage for getting around Disney World, you were dealing with human interface. It's just nowadays we have kind of this screen attached to it. So I don't want you to think that just because there wasn't a screen before, you weren't making an interface. So graphic design really gets into that area. So again, the three types of design: industrial, three-dimensional products, environmental, the design of living spaces, and graphic design, the architecture of the mind, if you want to be that high and mighty about it. I went to a conference last year where a website designer for the New York Times said that's what we're really doing these days. We're designing architectural spaces for people's minds. It's kind of a weird concept. It doesn't seem like a brochure or a newspaper or something, but there's the high-end part of it. And again, think of design as a public endeavor, and art. I mean, you can have public art. You can definitely have public art and public happenings, but art is really the pursuit of personal self-expression. Again, it's my opinion, and you'll hear all kinds of different opinions, but as you start on this, if there's some confusion, I think it's important to remember it's more important to get your message understood than it is to be original. And that just sounds so crummy to say. Everything you watch on TV is all about originality and being unique. And that's so important. And as a great designer, you have to have that too to be able to stand out. But as far as the base foundational thing, you have to be able to get the message across. If you can't do that, then your design is just not going to work. So there's the lowdown. Email me if you have questions, or give me a phone call. Thanks.